Now, I know this is about to sound crazy, what I'm about to say, but I think Michigan left a lot on the table. And a lot of people are going to say, but Harris, they just went in and beat a top 10 team on the road by double digits in maybe the best environment in the entire sport. My rebuttal to that is, yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but that's just how talented of a team Michigan is. Like, this was a great matchup for Michigan on paper. Dream matchup. Terrible matchup for Michigan State on paper. Michigan State is 255th in Division I in three-point attempts. They don't take a lot of threes. They're also not the biggest team either. They're a real inside scoring team. Well, Michigan is the ninth tallest team in college basketball. They are sixth in the sport in blocks per game, and teams are shooting 41% from two against them. Like, you look at some of these guys that Michigan has, Mara, 7'4", Merez Johnson, 6'10", Linda Borg, 6'9", Burnett, 6'5", Shetter, 6'8". Like, they are such a tough team to score on inside because they are bigger than you. And you look at Michigan State, well, look at their shooters. Fears is 29%. Cohen Carr is 29% from three. Carson Cooper's 25%. Scott's 32%. Cam Ward doesn't take threes. So when you have 3 to 4 guys on the floor at once who struggle to shoot threes, all of a sudden that paint gets super clogged because the defense is going to sag on you, most likely. And that's not just any defense, right? That's one of the biggest teams in the country. And to make matters harder, you're also not as big as them, and you can't shoot. Michigan should be blowing the brakes off of them, but they didn't. And I think that's a credit to Tom Izzo. I think that's a credit to Jeremy Fears Jr. Like, those two kept them in the game. And I'll say this, Dusty May had an amazing philosophy coming into this game. He's like, okay, well, you know what? We're going to force these guys to shoot threes, and they left Fears wide open. They left Cohen Carr wide open. And Michigan State, as a result, it kind of got in their head. They shot 4 of 23 from three. And I'd beg to say, if Michigan State didn't fall into Michigan's psychological trap, and if they didn't shoot a bunch of jumpers and drove inside with the way the refs were calling that game, I think that's a different game that we just saw. And yeah, I know Michigan won the game. I do think Dusty May got outcoached in a lot of ways. I think Michigan started this game trying to play through Ade Mara, their big 7'3" big man. And it worked in the beginning. He had 8 points. He was 4 for 4 shooting off the bat. But then Tom Izzo made a really interesting adjustment. Michigan State started guarding him mostly with Kohler, because Kohler's a big, strong guy. So Mara couldn't move him. He started guarding him right at the top of the key. And Mara couldn't move him. So not only could he get no movement, but when you don't move a guy and you can't move a guy, you're going to pass out of it, right? Michigan State would rotate someone towards the opposite side of the paint and constantly cause turnovers. It was a great coaching adjustment by Tom Izzo. But what the conclusion that I took away when I was watching Michigan play was they were trying to play Michigan State's game. Okay, they were feeding the post and playing slow, which is interesting because Michigan plays 25% of their possessions in transition. That's in the top 10 in all of Division I. Their efficiency when they're in transition, like their points per 100 possessions, absolutely skyrockets. So Michigan kind of came in playing Michigan State's game a little bit. And I sort of wondered, why are you doing that? And the moment Dusty May kind of realized this and his staff took out Ade Mara, put in Merez Johnson, Michigan went on a huge run, and there was no stopping them. Michigan State had no way of stopping Michigan once they got in transition. So Michigan sped MSU up. They stopped playing their game. And Michigan, by the way, is 8th in tempo. Okay, Michigan State's 267th in the nation in tempo. So complete opposite playing styles. I was just wondering why Michigan was doing that. Like, why aren't you playing to your strengths? And this is the point of this video. Michigan is one of the best teams in the sport. I am not making this video to slander Michigan by any means. But I think Michigan's problem is that sometimes they just forget how good they are. Like, Michigan's 5 best players on this team will likely all be getting an NBA contract. I'm not sure if Michigan State has a single guy on this team who's going to be getting an NBA contract, maybe Fears. But for the most part, these are a bunch of gritty guys that Tom Izzo has who have massive chips on their shoulders. And sometimes Michigan will just start chucking threes as well, like Ohio State, 5 of 23. Nebraska, 6 of 26 from 3. Penn State, 8 of 27. USC, 6 of 30. Instead of shooting more twos, like Michigan shooting 65% from 2 this year, that's the best in Division I. And it came back to that theme that Michigan pulled away when they started to realize how good they were. They're a lot more talented of a team than Michigan State is. And they started to play their game at the beginning, and then eventually Dusty May and his staff probably had an epiphany of like, oh, this is not Michigan basketball. This is not Dusty May basketball. And I do want to point out that in all of those games that I listed, the Michigan just chucking threes and missing them, they won all of those games except one by double digits. Since 2026, the start of 2026, Michigan has been shooting 28% from 3 as a team. They are still outscoring teams by double digits in that span. I do want to point out that Michigan shot 38% from 3 against Michigan State. That's huge. Huge for them. Because if this team started making threes, there is no stopping this team. Like, I mean, Arizona is included in that. Like, there is no stopping this Michigan team. And I do want to point out that they shot 39% from 3 in November and December before January hit, and they've been on a major slump from 3. So I think the question that I want to ask is, who is the true Michigan from 3? Is the November-December one the team that we're going to get from 3, or is it going to be the one we've gotten recently? Because if they start shooting threes and making them, this is the most dominant college basketball team of the last 25 years. I would go as far as to say that. And if they are still clanking threes, I think this is a one-dimensional offensive team that is really good everywhere else, and they're going to make it super far in the tournament, but ultimately that might come to bite them. And look, I didn't make this video again to slander Dusty May. I just kind of watched him and I'm like, they left a little bit on the table here. They should be blowing this team out by 30. This is an NBA team against a bunch of really good, really gritty college players. And I think Elliot Cadeau, this is one thing we got to talk about. Elliot Cadeau, his improvement needs to be studied. Like, this is absolute props to Dusty May and his staff as to what they did with Elliot Cadeau in the offseason. Because I watched Elliot Cadeau at North Carolina, and at UNC, defenders would literally sag off of him and dare him to shoot. And he would shoot a 3 and sometimes airball it and miss it. Like, if you watch Cadeau in those UNC Duke games, it was really rough for him because that was a really big team that dared him to shoot. All of a sudden, a year later, this guy is pulling up everywhere from 3. He's giving sniper celebrations to the crowd. Like, this guy is a new, not just player, but seems like a new human out there on the court, which is amazing. I mean, I'm happy for Elliot Cadeau. I always thought he was a really good player. I just kind of thought, you know what? Maybe he sort of lost it from 3. It seems to be a mental game with him. Dusty May and his staff, fix that real quick. Fix that real quick. Because this team runs through Elliot Cadeau. Like, they play through him. The pace is set by him. The guys getting out in transition is open because of him. And so if we get the Michigan that is draining threes like they are in November and December, and Michigan just realizes how good they actually are, there is no beating this team. If we get the Michigan that we've seen recently that kind of has these lulls where you're like, what are you doing? You kind of can't explain it. Then this is a really, 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 really good college basketball team that will probably just come up a bit short in March. But regardless, this is an elite team. It's an amazing win for Michigan. Huge for the program. Huge in sakes of the rivalry. This rivalry looks awesome. That atmosphere was amazing. This is one of the 5 best rivalries in the sport of college basketball. But the only one that can really stop Michigan at this point is themselves.